What up, guys? The Bench Buddies are back, and today Brady and I will be doing our NBA playoff predictions.
Uh,
Um, Season is just going to get started, and we figured we might as well predict what we think is going to happen before all the 82 games for each team starts. And on that note, Brady will start it off here.
all right, so we're gonna start off on the Western Conference side. So my playing teams were between Memphis and New Orleans. Both of these teams I think are really young, have a lot of potential, but I don't foresee them being able to beat Portland or the Clips, who were my 7 and 8 seeds. I think they have just too much power. I think they have too much experience to beat these young teams. And as mentioned, I don't even know if Zion will be around at this time. Constantly battling injuries and whatnot, but we'll hop right into it. So my first seed is the Warriors. I think this team is just winning culture in general. They have Clay back, Wiseman will be around. I think these guys are legit, and I think they always will be, if Curry can stay healthy. But I think the Trailblazers are just no match for their scoring ability and whatnot. Draymond will be able to lock up. I just don't foresee the Trailblazers being able to outscore the Warriors in any of these games. So I'm going with the Warriors for sure. And moving down to my 4 and 5 seeds, we have the Jazz and the Mavs. Now this one's kind of difficult, but because the Mavs haven't really made any moves, I know Jason Kidd's the new coach. That'll definitely help them out. But with how well the Jazz's chemistry seems to be and as consistent as they are, and I feel like every year they're just slept on over and over. So it's kind of time to start accepting the fact that these guys are here to stay. So I'm definitely taking the Jazz over the Mavs. And then moving forth, we have the Suns and the Nuggets. I think the Suns could have that potential to go to the finals again. I think they're that team. They've got all their guys back. The Nuggets will have Jamal Murray probably past the All-Star break. It's going to take him a second to really get back into things. Really got to hope for Michael Porter Jr. to have a great year for these guys to be successful, on top of Jokic being able to run that team. But just with the Suns' experience last year and the nature of knowing what it feels like to win, I'm going to go with the Suns here as well. Then my 2 and 7, we had a little LA showdown. I think the Clippers are going to be okay this year. I have them as a 7 seed, but I think the question remains if they'll even be a playoff team. I think they're beatable. Kawhi's coming off the ACL. He won't be around for a little while as well. But these Lakers, man, you never really know with them. They got Russ this year, Ariza, Nunn, Carmelo Anthony's on the team now, Malik Monk. It's a whole new team, so no one really knows what to expect. No one even knows if they're going to be healthy as well. Another one of those teams that seems like they're constantly battling injuries. But in the end, I'm taking the Lakers win this one easily. So I'm back up top between the Warriors and the Jazz. It's really a similar situation as Trailblazers and the Warriors. I don't foresee the Jazz being able to keep up with the Warriors. I think they're just going to be dominant scoring in almost every aspect. I feel like before even Kevin Durant came there, they lacked in a center. And now with a young James Wiseman, I just think they're going to be a dominant force in the NBA this upcoming season. And going back down, this was kind of a tough decision for me because, like I mentioned before, I think it's in the air whether or not what the roster will look like for the Lakers when it comes into the year. It seems like Anthony Davis is really struggling to stay healthy. LeBron will tweak stuff here and there. You got to really hope that Russ is around to hold his team together. You got to hope Carmelo is still producing. And the Suns are still that consistent same team. But assuming that the Lakers are healthy, I'm going to take the Lakers over the Suns in this matchup in a series. And between these two teams, I feel like it's another classic Curry LeBron matchup. People want to see it. I don't know. I think the Lakers have the potential, but I don't know if they can pull it off. It's going to be tough. They're going to have to come out with the best basketball they played all year. I just have such confidence in the Warriors to be able to score the ball, to move the ball. But the Lakers size matchup is the only thing that gets me. But I don't know. We'll see. This could be a really interesting series, and I think it'll honestly be a fun regular matchup to watch. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, what are your thoughts on the Warriors and the Lakers? Like, what do you really think separates them?
It's all gonna come down to the guard play because I mean Warriors, Draymond can play defense on LeBron, but and then
Yeah,
it's gonna be if Wiseman can hold down AD if he's healthy. But I think Curry and Thompson and even Wiggins are
yeah,
just too much
uh,
for Malik Monk, Russ, just and the rest of the Lakers team. But I mean, that's just where I would see that going. But I mean,
yeah.
obviously, you may have a different thing in mind. I don't know.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, no, that'll be a good matchup. But I mean, we'll see. But yeah. So moving on to the Eastern Conference. This one's going to be interesting too because we'll start with my plans. Honestly, I don't think the playing games here are that competitive. I have the Hornets and the Pistons, but I think it really could be anyone. You could throw Indiana in there too, but I don't think any of these teams can really boil down to beating, the Knicks or the Celtics. But yeah, so we'll move on to our one seed. I have the Bucks winning. I think the Bucks are gonna have the best record in the NBA. I think it seems like these guys don't take a night off in the regular season. They're always trying to win. And I don't think the Knicks have a single chance against these guys.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, moving forward, I have the Heat as my 4 seed and the Bulls as my 5. I have high expectations for the Bulls. I'd really like to see them win. I think they made a lot of moves, which makes the guys that they traded for want to win and be a part of a winning program. We talked about Io getting drafted. I think this team could be really solid. They lost Markkinen, but it seems like they gained a lot more than they lost. And I mean, it's really the same situation with the Heat. This one could go either way, but I'm definitely taking the Bulls here. For our 3-6, or my 3-6, it's between Atlanta and the 76ers. The 76ers were a really tough prediction just based off of all the drama going on within that clubhouse right now, or that locker room right now. But the Hawks, I think, could be a legit team this year, a serious contender. Trae Young, coming off the year he had last year, and now he knows what that playoff experience is like. He could have an MVP type year if he really got after it. But I'm definitely taking the Hawks in this series. I don't think the 76ers can hold them down in, a 7-5 game series, whatever it comes down to. The Nets and the Celtics, personally, I just don't think the Celtics are that team. I don't think they have the right lineup. I don't think they're going to win a championship revolving around Tatum, the rest of his career. I just don't think they'll be able to bring that. And now, I mean, they got Al Horford back, but I just don't see any way of them beating a healthy Nets team with or without Kyrie Irving there. Just going back up top between the Bucks and the Bulls, I just as great as I think the Bulls are going to be, I don't see how they can stop Giannis with the lineup that they have. And Chris Middleton, even how he played in the playoffs last year, the consistency, Drew Holiday at the point. I don't think the Bulls are any matchup for the Bucks here. And I think the Bucks are going to run away with this one. But I guess we'll have to see.
I
But
mean, for you, like obviously Giannis is a tough guy to guard, and the
yeah,
Bulls don't really have someone that could really stop Giannis. I mean, Vucevic could inside maybe,
definitely.
but if he pretty much figures out his shooting lines, like you can't put Vucevic on him because he'll just blow right
Right,
past him.
right, right. On top of that, Chris Middleton being able to facilitate. It seemed like in the playoffs last year, the ball was in his hands more than anyone else when it came down to it. So you have to figure out who your best defender is and who you really want to isolate, because that team is dangerous. I would consider them to have a big 3 between Drew Holiday, Chris, and Giannis for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Moving down to the Hawks and the Nets. I like the Hawks. I think that they have a lot of potential this year. The fan base there is crazy. I feel like everyone in Atlanta wants to stay in Atlanta. They have a great team chemistry, but the Nets just have that team. You know, if they're healthy and I mean, assuming Kyrie's around, even if he's not, I think these guys are just scorers at will, and every one of them seems like they've known how to win at some point in their career. So I'm taking the Nets in a series against the Hawks. I don't think the Hawks can stop just mainly Kevin Durant in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, we'd have a Nets Bucks matchup again, which was nuts last year, and I think that was one of the most entertaining series the NBA has really ever seen. Just with the constant back and forth, you really had no idea who was going to win. But I'm taking the Bucks. They figured it out. They figured it out last year. They knew exactly what they needed to beat the Nets. You know, they took what they could get, and I feel like Giannis just overcame. You know, Chris Middleton too. They both teams were hitting some crazy shots, but in the end, the Bucks came through, and I'm repeating the same thing. But I think this matchup would be really interesting because you have a bunch of savvy vets on the Lakes. You know, a bunch of guys that have been around basketball for a long time. They know how to win. LeBron knows how to win. But as we've said this entire video, you never know with them what their roster is going to look like going into a game. So with that being said, and with Giannis as dangerous he is, and the depth that they have in the returners, I'm taking the Bucks as a repeat here. I think they're going to go back to back. I have confidence, and I think they have confidence too. I think they're a winning team. I think they're going to have the best record in the NBA. And I mean, I think they have just as good a shot as anyone, if not better. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know who could stop them in a 7-game series. You know, unless the Lakers are completely healthy, playing at best, I just don't foresee them being able to shut down that team.
Mm-hmm. On yours, I mean, this has probably been one of the best teams that could repeat in recent NBA. I mean, I know the Warriors and all that, but before them, even this is still one of those better teams that I would take matched up against a lot of the finals winners since pretty much Jordan has been
Right. Yeah.
out, just because of Giannis and how dynamic he is. But onto my bracket here, we'll start on the Western side. We got the play-in team losers. I think the Spurs will somehow get there, just with Pop and great coaching. He gets the most out of his players. Clippers, I think they're just going to be a huge disappointment this year. I am still not high on Paul George, no matter what. I'm just not a Paul George fan, so I could be a little biased there. But Kawhi being out till Christmas time or even longer, I just don't think it's enough time for this Clippers team to click. So that's why I'm there. But in our 1 versus 8, we have Memphis being the last play-in team winner versus the Suns. I just see the Suns just kind of keeping up that same pace. And now Chris Paul is hungrier than ever after he finally went to his first finals.
Oh.
And that's why I'm just going to stick with the Suns. I just think that they just have too much going for them right now to be an early exit. And then an interesting matchup here is I got the Lakers at a 4 and the Jazz at a 5. I honestly could see this being the longest series out of all the series that are on here. Just because you don't really know which Lakers team you're going to get, and same with the Jazz. If they both go up against each other and they both have their best nights, I think it'll be the Jazz, but the Jazz don't do that every night. So on that note, I'm going to go with the Lakers, and I just think it'll be at least 6 games for sure in this series, and it'll be a really good series for the league. At our 3 seed, we got the Nuggets playing the 6-seeded Trailblazers. I'm a big fan of Dame, and just the Blazers. I feel like they deserve to finally win a playoff series against the Nuggets. So I'm going with the Blazers. But the Nuggets are a team that, with Jamal Murray, if he's capable of what he's done in the past and he returns healthy, this Nuggets team could be pretty deadly come playoff time. And for our last Western Conference matchup, we got the 2-seeded Warriors versus 7-seeded Mavs, who were the first play-in team winner. And Luka, he's obviously top 5, top 3 player in the league. And I just think besides that, the Mavs don't really have too much to write home to mom about. Mark Cuban, he's a great owner, and he does the most for his players, but he needs to get more players to win, I think. And with the Warriors getting Clay back, Wiseman back, if they can stay healthy this whole year, like I don't see them, losing in the first round for sure. But back up top, we got the Suns and Lakers. I just think the Suns have too much firepower right away against the Lakers, and not, but I think the Lakers are going to pull the upset here. Um, I just think that LeBron, after last year and kind of, you could say, disappointing season, um, I just think that they're going to get it done and move to the Western Conference Finals. And for our next matchup, I just feel bad for Damian Lillard here because it seems like every year they lose to the Warriors in the playoffs, and they're going to do the same again this year. I'm really high on the Warriors this year just because Steph, is going to be more determined than ever after him kind of being the guy last year who got hurt, and pretty much the franchise just went downhill. And Draymond really was the only healthy one. But for the matchup in the Western Conference Finals, you got the Lakers and the Warriors Battle of California. And I'm going with the Warriors. I just think that their dynasty is not over yet, at least to get to the finals. And I'm just kind of sold on Jordan Poole as well. A name that none of us have mentioned yet so far.
Yeah.
And at least right now in the preseason, dude has been playing like sixth man of the year for sure.
Very true.
And I'm not just saying that because Michigan bias, but if you go look at his preseason numbers, I know it's 3-4 games, but he's slowly been progressing in a Steph Curry-led shooting offense. And, that's what he's kind of been known for, is shooting and facilitating. And when you got, the best shooter and facilitator and probably the league in Steph Curry as your mentor, it's just bound to happen that sometime you're going to do that. And I think the key to the Warriors' success is to see how he plays this year as well. Moving over to the East, you got the Bucks and the Knicks. We have the same matchup there. We don't really think too much of the Knicks this year, so easy to go with the Bucks there. Not much to be said, but another one of the best series of the East, I think, will be the Nets and Heat. Kyrie Irving is going to be the key piece, in my opinion, to see how this Nets team will be. And personally, if he gets everything worked out and comes back, it's still not going to matter because I just think this Heat team are on a mission this year. Because they kind of had the people are already, if they don't have a good success for this year, they'll say it's a fluke year, the COVID year, when the Lakers won theirs. But I just think the Heat are going to get it done. And if, I think they'll win at game 6 at home. Just because, Miami fans always show out. They're really supportive of that team. And the key contributor to that team would be Tyler Hero, coming into his 3rd year. And it's going to depend on what he can do, because we saw in the bubble that man can ball out and pull some women as well. But going on to the 3 versus 6, we got the Sixers and Bulls. I'm going with the Bulls here. I'm kind of high on them this year, just like you are. I think it's just tough to pick against the Bulls, and with all the drama surrounding the 76ers right now, at least, it's just kind of a team you got to shy away from because you don't know what could happen. Like, this team could blow up within the next few weeks because they're trying to amend things with Ben Simmons. But I think the Bulls, they pretty much just went all in on this year. And I think a 6 seed is fair because I don't think they're going to come in and, be the best team in the league. But they definitely will make the playoffs and move on to the next round. And at number 2, we got the Hawks for Celtics, and I think Hawks in 4, if I'm going to be completely honest here. I just don't think the Celtics can do something, progressive without help. I mean, Tatum and Brown, they show that they can play, but if they don't drop 25, 30 a night, this team isn't going to get the win. But I forgot to mention my play-in team losers, Pacers and Pistons. Pacers have a lot of talent, but I just don't think that it's enough talent to keep up with all these Eastern Conference because these guys are all loaded this year. And Pistons, a little bias is involved here, but I just think that they're so young, and if they can even get to this point this year, that's going to be a huge success. They'll still have a decent pick next year at worst, and I think they're 1-2 guys away from a legitimate guaranteed playoff spot. It's just going to depend on how Cade Cunningham can develop under Dwayne Casey. And Troy Weaver, he's magical in how he makes his moves. It's kind of like surprising based on, Pistons recent history, but he is intended to go all in no matter what it takes to get every win possible. So bright future for all Pistons fans. But back to our Eastern Divisional Finals, we've got the Bucks and Heat, and I'm going with the Bucks. I think it's just hard to bet against Giannis and the defending champs, but this should be a good series, no doubt. And an interesting series with the Bulls and Hawks. Size in Vucevic in, Capella. It's pretty much Vucevic versus Capella, Collins, all these big guys for Hawks. And I think that's what's going to win them the series. Not Trae Young, because, both teams are going to have decent guards. But the Hawks have better bigs, in my opinion. And I just think that they'll do that. And the Hawks will also go to the finals over the Bucks because of that size. I think with Giannis, you know how Giannis loves to drive with all these moves. If he can finally start shooting, I just don't think that he can do what he wants against this Hawks team. Just based on, as I said, the bigs. Even if they, trade for a taller, small forward, or his team just plays well, I think Trae Young may win them two games max in this series, but it's just going to come down to how the bigs play. And the finals that, is going to be the highest scoring finals probably ever, because neither of these teams will want to play defense. All they'll want to do is score. Curry and Trae Young will probably drop 35 a night because neither of them plays defense on each other. But I'm going with the Warriors here, as Trae will get stunned in, I'm gonna say, let's see, whoever's the home team, like to start the series, I think they'll win however many games. So it could be 6, could be 7, not sure on that, but I'll go 6 here. I think Warriors in 6, and I'm gonna go with Klay Thompson for MVP of the finals. And I just think once he comes back, they're just gonna have a huge year and carry them to the NBA finals. But that'll be it for us today from this video. Our next video will be player predictions. So MVP, Coach of the Year, all awards that normally the NBA gives out, all rookie team, stuff like that. And until next time, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Bench Buddies are out.
She never called back.